All right. Hey guys, and welcome everybody to my C2E2 recap. The Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo was just this past weekend, and I attended. So we just want to do a quick recap with Jason and I to talk my experience with it, some of the things I got from the panel, some news that broke at the comic book convention, and this was my first experience with C2 in general. So
Oh, this was
overall,
your
it was
first C2E2?
first time I've been to
Oh,
C2E2.
because you always did the Wizarding World.
I always did Wizard World,
Oh, that was the
and
Harry Potter thing, my bad.
yeah, Wizard World, and Wizard World still goes on. But my experience with Wizard World back in the day in Chicago was far different than what you might expect from one nowadays, because it's all autograph driven nowadays, and it's not really like relevant panels. They still do pretty good with artists, talent coming to the shows and doing autographs, stuff
Yeah.
like that. Artist Alley is always a very important part for any comic book convention, which C2E2 had a really great Artist Alley, a lot of great talent there. But yeah, it's been 7 years since I attended any comic book convention. Last time was in 2009,
Holy
Wizard World
crap.
Chicago. And that was kind of like the downfall of Wizard World. That was like one of the last good years. And even that year, like, wasn't great. Some of the bigger publishers weren't in attendance, like Marvel, DC, Image, Wildstorm, Vertigo. Like, well, Vertigo's part of DC, but all those publishers like stopped showing up because uh, there's a bit of a fight between Wizard magazine. It was a magazine back in the day, and with some of these publishers with what they were doing. Uh, from this, C2E2 kind of spawned, and like they attended C2, the people from C2E2 real quick. They attended Wizard World, and like they were just walking around the convention, like holding picket signs and like trying
Cool.
to advertise their convention.
Yeah.
And it worked because like the next year they had their first C2E2, which was this was the sixth year, so back in 2010,
That's
I would mention.
crazy.
Yeah,
I guess if you're going to do it, dude, do it. Good
yeah.
on
I mean,
you.
I used to go to Wizard World like almost every year. I think my very first show was about 16 years ago or
Oh
so,
my god, you're a little
something
baby
like that.
Tristan back then. Got in
Yeah.
free.
But yeah, it was crazy. I had some good experiences with that. Some highlights way back when was like when Dark Knight was filming in Chicago. A lot of the actors and the director, the producers came by Wizard World.
Oh, it was like
They
at
had
the
a
same
panel.
time, so people just kind of like
Uh-huh.
cruised over. That's pretty rad.
Yeah, and they showed for the first time to anyone footage from the movie,
That's
and they
pretty
gave
cool.
out shirts to everyone. This really cool glow in the dark shirt that is activated. So once we left the show, since it was Dark Knight and Joker, it was the logo of Dark Knight for the
Yeah.
movie, and then ha ha ha's popped up everywhere in the shirt once we left.
That's pretty rad. Do you still have that?
I do still have it. Yeah,
So you need to wear that unadapted
I've
sometime.
worn it before at least once, but yeah, it's
Unadapted?
yeah.
What? I guess
Well, we're
well the lights were on, so we didn't even
at
know
one
that it
point.
was
Yeah,
special.
yeah. It's hard to see because it's so old nowadays, but.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so some great experiences, and C2E2 in general overall is a really great show. Really happy I made it down there. I've got family that has been going down there every year. That's how I even
Yeah, I saw
heard of it in the first place.
some cool cosplay you had on
Yeah,
Instagram.
my niece and nephew did some cosplay, and my nephew, since he just turned 10, the proper age for a Pokemon trainer to start going and collecting Pokemon,
Of
he
course.
dressed up as Ash.
That was pretty good.
It's
So
perfect.
is he like an avid Pokemon player?
Oh
So
yeah, he loves
it made time.
Pokemon.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Did you go as Pikachu?
I did
I
not.
feel like you really dropped the ball on that one, Tristan.
I sure did. And my niece dressed up as Rey from Star Wars Force Awakens, which she was one of like I think literally 100 Reys
Oh yeah,
down.
Ray is like the new hotness, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty
Rey
cool.
was actually those two, Rey and Ash, just like controlled that show. Like there were so many cosplays, and it's the 20th
Well, it is the
anniversary.
yeah, it's like the Pokemon anniversary
As
and shit.
anytime you mention that, oh yeah, well, I wonder why there are so many Ashes. And my nephew always chimes in like, it's because it's the 20th anniversary of Pokemon, so it's great.
So you just kept doing it all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, look at another Ash. Oh, it's
Uh,
because it's one of the anniversary. That's so
obviously,
good.
a lot of Deadpool going on since that's
Oh
really
yeah, for
hot.
sure.
But yeah, there's some really great, really, really great cosplay around.
Did they make their own costumes or did they like buy them?
My sister, their mom created them for them.
Because they were pretty good.
Hmm.
Like the
Yeah,
Ray one looked like it was like took
it
some
was
work.
all from scratch. Like she built that stick or whatever from a tutorial she found somewhere,
Yeah, that was
and
some
yeah,
pretty good handiwork. Check Tristan's
some great
Instagram.
stuff. Yeah, it's over on my Instagram if you ever want to check it out. Panels are always a big thing. I'm a big panels guy
You
at
really
these
are. You
shows.
love a good piano. I like a
I,
good piano when I know it's going to give me something behind the scenes that I
right.
can't see normally. So, like, when we went to PAX and we got to see
Mhm.
the Friday 13th, I was like, yes, this is it. Did you get some behind the scenes stuff here, or is it just like,
A little bit. I'll touch first on Civil War II, which was a panel about the Marvel Comics, their Civil War II that's coming out very, very soon in a few months, and laid the groundwork for what you can expect. I'll probably go more in detail about Civil War II and Adapted this week, but they showed some like never before seen art. They showed kind of the breakdown of like who's on what side. So
hmm.
that's kind of interesting
Wait, we
because
knew that already, though.
somewhat. They've thrown these promotional images out there, which not might not be entirely true. They're just promotional images. Like a few months ago, they were sending these postcards out. You may have seen the image of Iron Man and Captain America punching each other,
Yeah.
and that's like they were against the clock as they explained this in this panel. And that artwork like is they weren't even decided like what the story's going to be yet when they did that. They're just like,
Hmm.
let's
Well,
just throw that out there.
that was like a given, though. You knew those
Yeah.
two were going to fight battle, so that
Well,
was easy, right?
Sam Wilson's Captain America, who was formerly the Falcon, he's actually on Iron Man's side on this. So yeah, that's
Yeah. So, like, are you allowed to break down the teams here? Can you, like,
well, Captain Marvel is actually kind of leading the opposition against Iron Man.
wait, Captain Marvel's in this movie? Oh,
No,
Civil War
it's
too. Okay, I was
the
like, whoa,
comic
wait.
book. Comic
I was
book,
like,
sorry,
whoa, yeah. I was like, what?
just the comic book.
Okay.
Uh, Not to be confused with the movie that's coming out in a couple of months, Civil War.
Yeah, I got.
Timing is pretty great for it, I would say.
The timing is, I would say, terrible.
Terrible.
When's it
But
coming out?
Civil War Two, the movie comes out in May,
Yeah.
May 3rd or 4th, something like that, and then the comic book is coming out right around then. There'll be some current titles going on. They're laying the groundwork for it of like the
Mm,
events that are gonna like just blow up, kind of, because it's going. My understanding is that it's going to deal with someone's death. Someone's going to die, and how they're dying or how they're killed maybe is going to be the big spark that breaks open this big civil
gotcha.
war.
Isn't someone died in the original Civil War also, right? If we don't want to
Uh,
spoil it for people.
in the original Civil War,
There was a sniper, right? And took out like.
no, that was in the Secret Wars thing.
Oh.
In the original Civil War, there were a group of heroes that accidentally blew, or actually villains that grew up, or they blew up a big a neighborhood block accidentally,
Hmm.
and they killed like 600 people or something like that.
Gotcha.
And that is what happened. But because they had to, Iron Man's argument was that they had to police anyone that has powers. So
Gotcha. So Captain Marvel, she's getting the big
Captain
push.
Marvel against Iron Man, yeah, she's leading the opposition. She's not really agreeing with what Iron Man is fighting for, and we don't totally know what they're fighting for. We know they're some of the plot involves, and I think it's stupid because they're kind of I don't know if we want to call it stealing, but it's kind of the plot of Minority Report, where
Hmm.
it's
Everyone's
about
getting
fighting
involved.
future crime, and
Someone could see the future.
there's an Inhuman that can see the future, and yeah, so it
Yeah. I
involves
feel
that
like
a
we've been
little.
down this road in like a lot of different like things, like
Right.
television shows and.
When I first heard that, I was like, I don't know if I even want to read this. But once I went to the panel, I was like, okay, that sounds a lot more interesting. Uh,
Hmm.
the how they're explaining it with the different sides and the pieces in the comics all around, like some of the Al Ewing, who currently writes on Ultimates, which is a title that you might be seeing in Comic Book Tuesday this week.
Ooh.
He's his book Ultimates, some of the characters, Captain Marvel is a part of that Ultimates team, by the way, and that's a very important book to Civil War. So yeah, there's some interesting things that they revealed. There's a new Black Panther series coming out soon. That
Cool.
Black Panther is also part of the Ultimates. But
Man,
Black
I am
Panther,
really feeling Black Panther right now. I
yeah,
saw
and
his
Black
new Disney Infinity toy at the store, and I was like, man, that costume is the shit.
it is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, Black Panther is becoming very relevant in this whole battle, and yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces. Uh, Spider-Man plays a really big part in it, as they explained during this panel. So I'm generally
Which
curious to see what's
Spider-Man is this? Is this Miles
both.
Morales or?
Both are going to play big parts.
Oh, interesting.
Miles Morales is that Spider-Man is a part of the Avengers at the moment, the main team Avengers,
As he should be.
and he's going to play a very large role on that team. And Peter Parker, they didn't go, they never revealed too much, but they just basically said he's going to play a very pivotal part in the Civil War too. So
Hmm. All right.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And
We might have to cover this on Adapted. We might have to do this one. Bring the comic back. It's the summer, right? So like, it might be
yeah,
slow.
it's something we can definitely. When we covered Secret Wars for the most part until they started delaying issues. Hopefully, we don't see any delays.
Did they
And
finish that yet?
it is
I'm just kidding.
officially
I'm just kidding.
finished.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
finished it.
they finally just finished a couple months ago. The other panel I went to with Scott Snyder and Greg Capello did a Batman retrospective. They took over Batman. Those two creative talents took over Batman once they did the New 52 relaunch, and they started with Batman #1. So they took over. Scott Snyder is the writer, Greg Capello is the artist. Snyder got some attention before he came to Batman from Detective Comics, and he had an independent title that he was doing. Capello is a first time at DC, is my understanding. In the 90s, he was with Marvel, did some X-Force stuff. And then when Todd McFarlane was really popular in the 90s with Spawn,
Yeah, heck yeah,
uh,
he was. I
he
think.
brought
Yeah, Spawn was great.
Capello over, and he was an artist on Spawn for a long, long time, starting with like issue number 16.
Hmm.
So yeah, he was early on. He was, I think, he was doing the inking for that for a while. So setting that up, their run on Batman is ending this week. Batman #50 is their last issue they're doing, and they're moving to Detective Comics, is my understanding.
You've kind of
They,
liked this run of Batman, though. I feel
I
like you've been on
really
the comic
liked
book
it.
Tuesday a lot.
Yeah, and there's some further back Batman that they touched on, which once they were talking about it, it's stuff I haven't actually even read. So being at a comic book convention, I did some hunting and I found some of those back issues. So I'm gonna do some catch up on some of those older Batman issues they were talking about because it really sparked my interest in some of these older storylines. Uh, so yeah, I can't wait to.
Do you pay less when you buy them at a comic book convention, or are you
You can
paying more?
find deals, but you can also get ripped off.
Yeah. When I was doing the New York one, I was watching. I was like, man, these are really. I feel like it's like if you go to buy like a record or something. If you don't know what you're buying, you're gonna get just completely screwed over.
Like my brother-in-law, he's a collector and he hunts for first appearances of characters.
Mm.
So like first appearance of Punisher and Spider-Man.
Oh,
Uh,
that's good. That's a good
yeah.
idea.
So he's been hunting on those. So his big purchase at this convention was the first appearance of Shang-Chi in Iron Fist. He's Iron Fist character because he's going to be coming soon,
Mm-hmm.
part of the Netflix series. So he got that, and he was looking for a few other things, but some things just weren't priced
Can we
appropriately.
say how much he dropped on it?
That book I think was under 100. It
Oh,
wasn't too,
okay.
yeah. But there's some weird stuff like, okay, back in the 90s, Superman died, right? The death of
Yeah,
Superman was
yeah.
a big
Got his
story. They're going
back
to do a
broken, the
movie
whole
about
nine
it
yards.
and
Yeah.
all that.
I wish he would die now.
They published so many of those comic books, and they published it. You could buy the individual issue, but they also sold it in this black poly bag with a red S on the cover.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's very possible you've seen it before.
No.
But these things have been like a dime a dozen. And now with a Superman movie coming out where it's becoming very popular again, they were selling these things for like, I think $40 some places, $50. These are comic books that used to be in dollar bins at places.
Man, if you would have known, huh?
Well, I have a couple, so I mean, I have them,
You just
but it's just like the market. Like,
it just
if,
fluctuates. Yeah.
if this movie flops, which I don't think it's going to, because it's gotten some really great reviews after they did their premiere
Yeah,
last
I
night.
keep hearing that. We're gonna
Uh,
cover it on
yeah,
Wednesday.
we'll be covering it this week as we've got a special Batman vs Superman preview podcast this week, and we'll talk about more on Adapted. But yeah, I
That's
where was I going
interesting.
with this?
I don't know where
Um,
you're going with it, but it was just overpriced, and that's
yes,
like.
yes. So the
But I,
price goes up and down, and right now the price is high, which is just I think those guys are just testing the waters to see if someone's gonna like, oh, Death of Superman, I should get that because
oh
you
yeah,
know,
no, totally. You go on that show right on day one, you're like, holy crap, people are buying this thing for $40. I guess I'm gonna keep the price up.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
what yeah, that's what you do at a show.
I'm sure the next show I'll be at, it'll be back in the dollar bins, but just
Oh yeah,
because
totally.
it's not like it shouldn't be priced that much. Like,
Although if it's in the dollar bins, that means a lot of them might have got dumped and destroyed, and maybe
yeah.
it's becoming rare again.
uh, Talking about this panel alone, Scott Snyder and Greg Capello, those two guys I absolutely loved in this panel. It was such it was the most personable panel I've ever been in. May have been the best panel I've ever been in, actually, ever. But this Greg Capello, he's like this big tough guy. He wears sunglasses. He's bald.
Yeah,
He's
love it.
Sicilian, so he talks really loud. Uh, but he's just like an out there guy. Like he's known for being just really excitable on Twitter. Like he'll get on these conversations with fans, and like he's got a good rapport with the whole comic book community and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But
So he
he's
just
like,
kind of was awesome.
yeah, he was great. They were signing autographs before the panel in Artist Alley, and he was like going up to everyone in line while they're waiting, shaking their hands, giving them hugs.
Classic '80s.
During the Q&A part of the panel, he was normally like they're up on a stage, and as we've seen at panels, like they're just up on a stage, they're just talking in a microphone.
Yeah,
He was down on the floor with the crowd,
with the people.
right next to the people talking, and when someone would ask him a question, we're like, "Hey man, I really love your work. I love the your story arc in this. I love your art. Blah blah blah." Like he would give him hugs and like it was some of the greatest stuff I've
Huh?
ever seen at a panel. Yeah,
Weird. That's awesome.
but yeah, it was a really great panel, and if you haven't seen their work in the new 52 Batman, which launched with number one, they're currently on issue number 50 this week. Pick up some trades. I definitely highly recommend picking some of that stuff up.
I've only seen a little bits and pieces as you covered on Comic
Hmm.
Book Tuesday when I'm looking for images and stuff, but like it just always looks really cool. I feel like that's one I need to grab that
Yeah,
arc at
Scott
some
Snyder, the
point.
writer, during the panel they talked about like how he's a writer, so he has a lot of words for things,
Mm-hmm.
and he like Capello works the opposite. So they're talking about like how they butted heads in the beginning, and now they're like best friends, they're bros, they're family, and
That is kind of cool,
so
you know,
like the
you
whole story,
opposites.
like
Yeah.
how it developed, like it was really great to hear. So yeah, and issue number 50 is coming out this week, and it's kind of like they're both putting on their final stamp on it since that's the last issue working on the main title, and Snyder kind of like reinvented Batman in some ways. Like he's a character that's been around for 75 years, blah blah blah, and he's for this generation, he explained like, Batman always tries to keep all the crime in the darkness, and he like fights crime in the darkness, blah blah blah. But Snyder's Batman is about getting people to come into the light and like be their own hero. Like forget about Bruce Wayne's wealth or anything. Like for him, like he's just a normal guy. He puts on this suit, fights crime. Uh, and he was trying to connect it to like nowadays with terrorists and like
Hmm.
trying to like change what we do in our daily lives and everything. Like,
Like he's trying to reform criminals, or just like
not
by
reform
his
criminals,
actions
but
reform like human
like
nature.
kind of human nature where like people shouldn't be scared to do their own thing. Like, be who you are, because that's what Bruce Wayne as Batman is. Like, that's him.
Yeah.
And if you want to stand up against something, like, do it. Be your own guy. And it
Hmm.
was really,
That's a good, interesting
yeah,
angle.
the way he was explaining it, I can't explain as well, but it was yeah, it was really great.
Yeah, you're painting a very soft portrait of Batman.
But yeah, his whole retrospective, or both the retrospectives on the series, was just a really great time to listen to,
Hmm. Well, that sounds cool.
and the crowd was really into it too. So
I could tell you're like super
it
jazzed
was
about
very
this. Did you get a
energetic.
hug?
I didn't get a hug now.
Ah, you missed out, dude.
They talked so much that they didn't get a lot of questions answered. Like there was
That's
a long
okay,
line
because a
of
lot of times
students,
you get
but
dumb questions.
yeah,
I'd
they only
rather
get an
them
hour,
talk. Yeah.
so yeah. Some news that broke from C2E2 during these different panels. It was mostly Marvel news because Marvel was there. I mentioned Batman was there, but DC was didn't put on like their own panel. They're gonna even have more news about Batman, which Snyder shared with us, but he couldn't actually elaborate on what that might be. But next week at WonderCon, uh, they're gonna have some news about Batman and who's writing what and all that.
That's exciting.
Uh, Even more before I move on, but touching back on that Batman panel, those two guys, Snyder and Capello, they were both invited to the premiere of Batman versus Superman, the movie, last night.
Mm-hmm.
And but they had this panel going, so like, sorry, Warner Brothers, like, or DC or whoever invited them, they're really adamant about having them be there, but they're like, we've got this panel, it's for the fans, it's a retrospective on
Wow,
our time
that's
with
kind of
Batman. So
crazy that
like
they would ditch that. You know.
they said no, like we can't change our schedule, like we're not going to switch to Saturday or anything like that. We committed to this and we told the fans we're going to be here, so that's when we're going to do it. And so like backed out of the premiere, which was like a
That's pretty
really
cool because
crazy move.
like a lot
Yeah,
of people go to these shows for the panels and they'll like take that day off of work because they want to see these specific people. So like that's
yeah,
really cool that they stuck to their guns.
for sure.
Now they can go see the movie tomorrow.
Exactly. Snyder was saying a story how he went to the Man of Steel premiere and he was like sitting behind Kevin Costner in this Waterworld story, but yeah, that's funny. But yeah, comic book news where it was Marvel heavy. Star Wars Rogue One, which is coming out in December, of course, is going to be getting a comic book prequel miniseries, which will finally elaborate
Yeah,
on
did they
the.
say anything about this movie?
They didn't.
Nothing? Gosh
No,
darn it,
nothing.
man.
Which I'm assuming by then we're gonna have a trailer. We might actually know what the movie. We know what the movie's about. We're
We
gonna
gotta get a
get
trailer this summer, right? This
a
thing
few
is
more
like
details. Yeah,
filming and it's gotta be out this summer.
they've got to be close to being finished filming, I would think. But
Yeah, because they have to be doing all the post for this,
right,
unless it's like
comes
super
out in
low
nine
budget.
months.
But it's Star Wars. I doubt it.
So yeah, they're gonna have this 3-issue miniseries. Poe Dameron's gonna have his own series in June.
Oh
So
man, you love that.
more Star Wars comics to come.
And they've been
Hans,
good so far, so like you
they've
can't
been
really
very good.
complain. Yeah,
They've been putting pretty good talents, good artists, good writers on these series. So keep them coming, I guess.
bring them on.
And I mean, they're trying to craft their whole like new Star Wars comic book canon since they scrapped it all once they
Yeah, true. They
restarted.
got a lot of
So
work to do.
they do have a lot of stories to put
Plus,
out
it
there.
helps like continuously build these characters while the movies are in between. Like Mopar
Yeah,
and Dameron, people will be like, "Oh man, I love it."
yeah. Some Deadpool stuff. You've heard of Heroes for Hire? I've talked about briefly where like Luke Cage was like hero for hire, where
Yeah.
give him money and he'll fight some crime for you. Deadpool's kind of doing a similar thing, but instead he's assembling a team of mercenaries and he's calling it Mercs for Money.
I like it.
They showed an image of it, and the image of it looked pretty cool with just different his buddies, mercenary buddies around like a poker table. They all had like guns behind them, ready to draw. It was just a kind of
Are
a cool
there any
image.
main mercenaries that we would know?
I only saw the image, and I didn't really recognize a lot of them.
Hmm.
Um,
That's
so
actually
yeah,
that's kind of cool. Maybe it'll help build out some new people
yeah,
that could
it's
feature in the movie that are or the next movie that are like
my understanding it's going to be an ongoing series, so we'll see what comes of it. So
Hmm.
yeah,
All right. I like
and
it.
then last little piece of news: Spider-Man, Dead No More, which will be a new storyline coming up in Spider-Man comics soon. They're bringing back some characters that have previously been killed. Don't know how that's exactly going to happen, but they released an image where front of the pack is Uncle Ben returning from the dead, which is kind of interesting. And
Zombie
it's
form?
no, just regular Uncle Ben.
Like
He's
he was
back.
like, "Hey guys, I've just been gone."
Yeah, I have absolutely no idea how they're going to explain it. Just that they teased this Dead No More thing for a while, uh, but now we know some of the characters. George Stacy is another who is Gwen Stacy's father, who has been killed. He's coming back. No reveal of Gwen Stacy because in Gwen Stacy of the normal universe, of course, was killed many many years ago. The Spider Gwen currently going on is in a different universe. So yeah, we'll see what comes of
Weird.
it. There's more details.
I don't like when comics bring people back. Like they make this big thing that they're gonna die and then they bring them back. That really bugs the shit out of me.
It's the cycle of things that happens in comic books. Like they kill them off, they come back.
Like Superman, he
It's an
should have been
endless.
dead for like 10 years.
Yeah, that would
Or
have probably played a
Deadpool.
little bit,
That Deadpool one's the one that really pushed my buttons
but
because I
well, he
never
can't
like.
really die, but yeah.
Oh
And
man.
Wolverine got killed last year. He came back as Old Man Logan. Uh, Captain America, Steve Rogers died at one point. He came back, and yeah, they all come back.
Everybody's back.
Yeah. Uh, Trying to think of anything else to cover about the C2E2. Twitch sponsored a gaming area. Uh,
Geico.
Geico was there as well, as we saw
Geico's big,
Geico
dude.
at PAX South.
Giving away geckos.
This one, they were giving out those little mini Geicos again. They had like a big tour bus set up where you could go inside. I didn't go inside, but my understanding they had like karaoke set up and weird stuff
That sounds
set up
terrible.
in there. They didn't have any actual like at PAX South. They had like actual things you could play,
Mm-hmm.
video games you could play. This one didn't have any of that, which must just be a different setup. Not really
Were there
sure.
any video games you could play?
Uh, as far as from actual publishers or developers or anything like that, no, there wasn't, which I'm reflecting on my old times at Wizard World. Like, if there was a video game coming out, even if it, of course, if it was linked to a comic book, it would be there. But even if it wasn't, they'd still publicize it and you could play an hour of it or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had absolutely nothing like that there,
Hmm.
which is sad because I feel like it could
Too.
be intermingled. Uh, but I guess there's so many like E3 so big nowadays, and that PlayStation experience is
Yeah, but like
getting a lot
when I
bigger.
went
But
to New York Comic Con, all every time I went to it, Nintendo always had a big presence there.
maybe they just don't have. Maybe this one just isn't as big as New York. New York is pretty
New York is
big.
big, right? It's like up there with San
It's
Diego at this
really
point.
close to San Diego right now.
Yeah, so that I guess that makes sense.
And
But
this, I don't know. Maybe C2E2 is just going to grow a little more, and maybe eventually it'll be there. I hope.
attendance seemed good though, right? Like you
Yeah,
felt like there's a lot of
it was
people.
packed. Friday is always a slow day. Saturday is always a very, very busy day.
Hmm.
Hard to walk anywhere. And
Yeah.
then Sunday was a surprisingly busier than Saturday day, probably because it was Kids Day and kids under 12 got in free.
Oh
Uh,
man.
so
That's
that,
why. That's why you got to bring those Nintendo games. Nintendo, get those
which
kids hooked.
they did have some Nintendo games there because they had a little retro gaming area where they had old box set TVs, which I feel bad whoever carried all those big ass TVs in there.
Yeah, those
It
things
was
are so heavy.
They had like 24 of those TVs in there set up. They had old Dreamcast set up, N64s.
Yeah, some of your pictures looked really cool. I like when I see like 50 Nintendo 64s in a row. It's like always like a good memories.
Yeah, they were playing Mario Kart and whatnot, and yeah, looked like a good time. But yeah, it was like the kids' gaming area more or less.
Hmm.
They had some newer games set up on actual flat screens like Street Fighter and uh, Smash Brothers. So yeah, you could still play newer games, even though Smash Brothers wasn't that new. One other thing I saw that someone was selling custom amiibos.
Love it.
Like they were crafting their own amiibos, which I think you could even play them in the game. I don't know how that totally works out. But I saw like zombie Pokemon and whatnot with
Yeah, like people do like well
uh,
they color them, right? Like they take
yeah,
them and they like color them and it still uses that same character.
yeah,
Like I have a gold Donkey Kong that Amy did or Chad
nice.
did. I don't know who they every time I ask
I've
they
seen
use
people
it.
do it with pop vinyls also, where they just if it's not out there, which is rare because there's so many pop vinyls out there, they create their own custom one, which yeah, it's
It's
interesting.
cool.
Yeah,
Did you see the new Ant-Man one? The new Ant-Man Disney Infinity 3.0? That is a really cool looking toy.
I believe my nephew may have got that.
He probably
Got some,
should have. If he didn't, he should because it looks awesome. He's got like a cool pose. That's great.
but yeah, that was kind of C2E2 in a nutshell.
Sounds awesome.
I wish the vendors were a little bit more prevalent. I miss that from back in the day. My comic book options were a little bit
Oh yeah,
limited.
did you buy anything?
Oh yeah, I after that Batman panel, I went back and found some Batman back issues and got current with some issues I was missing because I didn't start reading their run on it until issue 41.
Hmm.
So I haven't been reading that long.
So you
So
don't have a comic book buying strategy. You just buy whatever you want.
I usually I look for the dollar or $2 bins. If there's some series that I haven't gotten, I try to always buy below cover price for sure.
Gotcha. But you don't like buy like first appearance or anything. Like
No,
I'm kind of like we've only been talking for like 20 minutes, but I'm totally obsessed with that idea actually.
no. I
Like
mean,
I feel like I'm going to
you
come up with
can
something
get a
similar to
really
do some
great
collecting.
collection if that's what you're doing. And my brother-in-law's got a pretty great collection of first appearances. There's some first appearances that he accidentally has, which like he would get comics regularly and like
Mm-hmm.
not know that he has the first appearance of Galactus or someone like that. So yeah, it's cool happenstance sometimes. Like some of these comics I get sometimes 20 years from now, I'll be like, holy cow, I have the first appearance of so and so.
Yeah, no,
I
that's
have
super cool.
certain first appearances where like X-23 first popped up in a series called NYX, Nix, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
She's currently the all-new Wolverine. Uh, Wolverine, Logan's daughter, but she's a clone of him.
Yeah,
But anyways, I have the first appearance of her because I used to buy that series
yeah,
back like 15 years ago or whenever it was.
huh?
So there's stuff like that
Yeah,
where, yeah,
totally.
I do have first appearances of some things. But yeah, it's kind of fun to go all these different shows and see who has a good price, check out the quality of the comic book, and yeah, some cool stuff.
Do you have another show lined up after this, or is this it for a while?
This is it. I might make it a regular thing to go to C2E2 every year. They announced the dates for next year is actually going to be in April.
No,
Uh,
yeah, I feel like we should go to C2E2 with big signs that say Allerton Ave.
we
They
probably
can't
should.
ban the signs, right? Like, because that's
No,
how
no,
this thing was
you can
born.
do
Like, they have
signs.
to do it. Like,
Yeah.
we should totally just
There
do
were
it.
people walking around with picket signs with random stuff.
Yeah, we need some picket signs.
Yeah, we could definitely do that next year. I believe it's in late April next
So
year.
there
So
is no Wizard World now, right? It's just this.
Wizard World still goes on, and Wizard World used to
It's
be
in
in
like a
like four
bingo
different
hall.
cities, but I mean it's still in large convention halls, and it still attracts a good crowd. But it's more people going there strictly for autographs. C2E2 still has autographs, but and you can like
Sergeant Slaughter,
Supergirl and Sergeant Slaughter. There are a few wrestlers there.
dude.
Mean Gene
Virgil,
Okerlund was there.
Eugene Okerlund is pretty good.
Mick Foley was there, and The Godfather was there, who I believe is being inducted in the Hall of Fame this year.
Yeah, I think I saw that too. So
Uh,
that's pretty big.
but yeah, I walked right past them. They were selling stuff for a price, of course,
30
but
bones. That's ridiculous for a Slaughter autograph, dude. It's not worth it.
Slaughter was funny. Oh, Bushwhacker Luke was there. I think that was Luke, and he looks terrible. He
Oh,
just looks.
the Bushwhackers are a goddamn train wreck. I remember
He has like this
indicted
sprayed
the
on
whole thing.
hair, which just looks awful
It's
on him.
cool. It's
Yeah, have
it's
you seen
pretty
it before?
cool. Well, they were inducted into the Hall of Fame. Not I
Oh,
don't know
okay.
either last year or the year before, and they looked terrible.
Probably looks the same.
Yeah, but why were they
And
separated?
Honky Tonk Man was there too. Only Luke was there. I don't know where the other one
I wonder
was.
what Honky Tonk Man looks like these days.
He's got heavily dyed black hair and
Yeah.
just looks
Does
old.
he have a
Yeah.
guitar? Wear the jumpsuit, the whole nine?
He wasn't wearing a jumpsuit or anything.
Total miss. Who's gonna buy a picture of the guy not in a jumpsuit?
I'd say Mick Foley was the coolest one to see, just walking past him.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Uh, I was behind him, just walking around the floor for a while too, which was an odd experience. But yeah, pretty cool.
Cool. Sounds like it was a good time, man.
It's a very good time. I'd recommend C2E2 to anyone listening, and yeah, check it out if you're in the Chicago area, anywhere drivable to Chicago. I'd check it out. Highly recommend it.
Awesome. Cool. Let's call it.
Let's call it a night.
Yeah.
And join us all week long for more comic book news, video game news, as we've got our Batman vs. Superman preview and Adapted and the Block Party recording live Wednesday evening on YouTube Gaming, Allerton Ave live channel.
Well done, Tristan. I'm glad you had fun.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Till next time.